All right, y'all, 306 Leland Live Talk 99.5. Let's get this thing going. We've got an active news afternoon. Let me give you a couple of quick headlines. Then we're going to get Barry in it. A couple of candidates this afternoon. Rare groups of interviews that we usually don't do. But hey, tomorrow's election day. Let's do it. And I'll be doing the ballot review at 5 o'clock. All that stuff's still to come this afternoon. But two stories that have kind of overtaken us for a minute. We've got a massive wildfire that is broken out in California that's demanding a lot of attention. And they've now had to evacuate the Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley. It's not the first time for these people. These fires have encroached all the way to the windows of the building in the past. And so they're going through that again. Zero containment. It's growing and spreading by the hour. We're keeping an eye on that story. And then just south of there, down in San Diego, there's been some kind of active shooting. I wouldn't declare it a mass shooting right now near or at an Islamic center in San Diego. We don't know the nature of it at this point. Reportedly, two dead, some others injured. Police say they've got the situation, quote, contained, which means they either have apprehended or shot the initial shooter themselves. I hate it when they include the people that have been shot in the fatalities, but nonetheless, we'll get that sorted out this afternoon. Huge police response. Still don't know much else. We're watching San Diego. Real quick, Danny Knowles with the Knowles Group bringing you the show tonight. Danny was it was good to see him at the Jawbone Jam Friday night. Just a good friend, lifelong friend of mine, and an excellent investment advisor. As you well know, we had several different couples came up and said Danny had all their money. They were there too, and just thanking me for putting them in touch with him. His team just they got heart. It's his sons and him, and he's been doing it forever. You'd think my mom would know him on the radio. I'm kidding. That's not my mom. I don't know who that is. Probably a damn spammer or somebody running for office. So yeah, y'all reach out to Danny. The markets surprisingly were up today with all the war talk and still upheaval with the energy markets. It was you thought we started off down in a low Monday. Danny and his team aren't watching the day to day; they're watching the long term. That's what makes it work. So y'all reach out to him if you want a conversation about your retirement future. It's the KnowlesGroup.com, the KnowlesGroup.com. Want to welcome Barry Moore in. He's on your ballot tomorrow, and we haven't had him on the show so far this cycle. I haven't done a whole lot of candidate interviews at all. But Barry, I appreciate you spending a little time with us. What are you doing this afternoon?
Leland, just doing a lot of media hits, and then later this afternoon, the president and I are actually going to do a teletown hall. We're going to call the people in Alabama, and you should get a call around 7 o'clock with his endorsement. He just wants to make sure we remind everybody to get out and vote. So the president and I will be on the phone for, I've got it blocked for an hour. I figured it'll probably be 30 minutes, but would love to have the listeners join us and visit with the president. He's always pretty dynamic, pretty interesting. He'll probably fill us in on some things going on around the globe, but just a dear friend and glad to have him available to do a call tonight.
Is that live? How do y'all set that up? How does that work?
Yeah, it'll be live, and we'll call out. The White House will call out to folks, and then if for some reason, if you got an out-of-state number, Leland, I can give it. Folks, if they want to dial in at 7 o'clock, the number's 833-746-0072. So should be a good time. Like I said, he is something else, and I've become friends with him over the years, and just it'll be interesting to sit there and listen to him talk a little bit just directly to the folks of Alabama.
Well, based on all the polling available, you've shot out to the lead. It doesn't look like we're going to see a clear winner tomorrow night. I know that's what you're hoping for, but having been part of a campaign that was a congressional member who went statewide, I know how difficult it is to get the name ID. How big was the Trump endorsement once you got rolling?
Hey, it was huge, and for us, it was kind of a full circle moment for our family because I served in the state legislature for 2 terms and term limited myself. But in my second term, when he came to Alabama, I was the first elected official in the nation to endorse him. At the time, honestly, I thought I was getting out of politics. I was done with the mess. And then his team asked us to run for Congress. And so when he came and endorsed us early like he did and said, hey, Barry's a friend, a fighter, and he will not let you down. He has seen me in the fight with him for 5 years in D.C., and he, was just a great momentum builder for us. And again, a full circle moment because we've been in the fight with him on the weaponization as I served on the Judiciary Committee, the way the DOJ, the FBI, those people came after everybody around him, his lawyers, even his chauffeur got arrested. And so it was great just to be in the fight for him, and now I be in D.C. with him. I've been with him a year and a half in the fight with him as president, and just a great time to get a call from him and have that endorsement.
People, for the most part, despise Congress nowadays, Republicans and Democrats. And I know we've got some good guys up there, but you're just surrounded. Um,
Sometimes I despise them. Lee.
well, I mean,
brother,
good.
yeah, it's because being a member of the House Freedom Caucus, there are only about 35 of us that have signed the term limits pledges, that have
Yeah.
pushed for the America First agenda, and so we're fighting a system that is fighting the American people. And so, yeah, honestly, the House Freedom Caucus member, those are about the only meetings I go to that I don't feel like I need a shower when I leave, because
It's
those are the guys that are patriots and they're trying to fight for the country.
they're just outnumbered. Are you pledging to term limit yourself again? You said you did that in the state house. Is that what you're doing
Yeah,
if you
I
get
served
elected?
2 terms. Yeah, I served 2 terms in the state legislature, and I've served 6 years, 5 years in the House. And so, yeah, I've always signed a term limits pledge. I think that it's good too, Leland, if we attach that to contract lobbyists, however, because in many ways the lobbyists kind of run the show up there, and
Yeah, they do.
you can't just have them stay for 40 years and have a member come in as a freshman from Alabama or wherever and go, yeah, this guy's going to be able to figure his way around. It's just going to be difficult. So I think contract lobbyists need to have a limit on their time to lobby, so we don't have young, fresh blood coming to Washington, D.C., like many of us, 4 years in, and you got these lobbyists just putting tremendous pressure. And look, the House Freedom Caucus numbers are growing. President Trump has done well in bringing a lot of populist guys to D.C., but yeah, I've kind of always been, this thing is a calling for me. If the Lord had let me come to the House, I'd have came to the House yesterday, brother.
What would you do different than Tuberville or Katie Britt right now? The MAGA base is frustrated with Thune, and we need to hear a little more volume and aggression, particularly over the SAVE Act, because I'm convinced if we don't pass
Yeah.
it, the House is we're going to lose the House. What would you do differently?
I would nuke the filibuster. And coaches
You can't
agreed
do
with
it
me,
by
the
yourself.
president
How would you
agreed
do
with me.
that?
No, you just got to get enough people to agree and make enough noise about it. Because if we don't, I'm a firm believer, because the Democrats didn't nuke it last cycle because Joe Manchin and Sinema held it up. They're both gone now, and so
Yep.
what I've seen with the weaponization, the impeachments, the indictments, the raids on the president's home 91 days before midterm, to think that the Democrats, if they get power in the Senate, will not do this, then I think we're naive. So I think we've got to push, and we got to get the president in line with us, which he is, to nuke the filibuster, get this Save America Act across the finish line. The redistricting is going to help some nationally, but we still have to make sure that Save America Act, where we have U.S. citizens with U.S. IDs voting in U.S. elections to elect U.S. leaders, so vitally important for the future of the country.
I think what surprised me most with a pretty tight race, and you kind of came out of, by statewide standards, kind of obscurity being a representative of South Alabama. You had to grow yourself into North Alabama, and then Jared Hudson was a complete unknown. What's been your biggest surprise as we go into what looks like a runoff, and who do you think you'll be running against?
So, we're hoping to do it without a runoff, like you said when you in your opening segment. But in many ways, I think the thing for us is that you're, as a congressman, you're not known that statewide unless you're on the media a lot. And I don't ever go out and seek the media attention. But for us, as we talk about our record and having the highest Liberty score in the delegation, being one of 11 U.S. congressmen that got a perfect score from Heritage, there was only 11 of us out of 435. As people hear that and they know the president's with me and they see where I've been in the fight with him, and the endorsements from the House Freedom Caucus guys, those have all helped. For us, it's just a matter of the amount of money you got to spend north, because people don't know us in the north. But as I talk to them, the surprise for me really has been they're very receptive. I've ran in enemy territory before. I've been the underdog every time I've ever ran. This time, like you said, I was the underdog when I announced. The president has helped move the needle, but we were the underdog because we were from South Alabama. We've never had more money. So this time's been a different thing, but stepping in, getting the president's endorsement, and as people hear the message, I've been really pleased as they learn, hey, he's a conservative and the president appreciates the job he's done. That has been the thing for me that's been most surprising, is how receptive the entire state has been.
Well, and look, it's been a relatively positive race all the way through, and maybe that's because it's the leaders have moved into different positions the whole way. Does that change if we get into a two-man runoff? Are you going to have to, quote, go negative? What's your plan?
No, I have never Barrymore for Congress, Barrymore for state. I have never allowed my team to run a negative ad because I think if you got a record and you got a record you're proud of, there's no sense in attacking somebody else. You need to go out and talk about what you're going to do and what you've done, and that's how we've always ran our races. I don't allow my team to go negative ever. Now you got like you had an opening segment, I think 18, 19, talking about super PACs coming in with gambling money, all that. Sometimes those guys, I've been attacked by I think that same PAC in the past in the last congressional race, but sometimes those outside guys come in and go after us. But for me, my team, I always tell them we're not running a negative ad. We're going to run on our record, and that's what we're going to do.
That gives the principal campaigns plausible deniability when they can let a third party do the dirty work. Do you think it'll get dirty from that system?
I don't know. You just don't know who's going to get involved in these races. Like I said, I've been the Never Trump guys have come after me pretty hard on this one with some outside attacks, and so we'll see. But there's a lot of Never Trumpers out there, and there's some people that pour big money into these races to stop the Trump endorsed candidates. But I'm cautiously optimistic that this thing will stay clean and we can get a win.
Who will you be running against? You didn't answer that one. Who do you think will be?
Yeah, I don't know. I think if there's a runoff, the other two guys are neck and neck. Is what I've been hearing. I don't know because I haven't seen any polling in probably 4 or 5 weeks.
You look at the polling every day. You look at the polling
I do not,
every day,
really
man.
do not.
You have
Brother,
to.
I have not.
You have to look at it every day to run a campaign. You have to be looking at your polling.
I saw a poll yesterday that somebody shared on Facebook that Rodney Walker had 41%. So I mean, I've learned I don't look at that stuff. We run the message and we do what we're gonna do.
Okay, let me get through that. I believe it's going to be a super low turnout race, and that's because you guys have run a pretty clean race. There's no real fight at Trump's not on the ballot. We don't have a big governor's race to draw people out. So how does that help or hurt you if you're kind of struggling to get your base out?
I don't know. I mean, they say a high turnout may be good for us. Like you said, it may be, and it could be a low turnout could work for you. I don't know, man. That's a $20 million question. So, yeah. I think you're right, though. I don't know that. Well, there's been a lot of other races, though, man, that have been negative statewide. You know that. I mean, we've been seeing the ads. I got friends on.
Oh yeah, the AG's race is nasty. Yeah.
And so. Yeah, and even what was it? The lieutenant governor's race has kind of gotten bad. So, but they may mobilize some people. I don't know, brother.
Nobody cares about lieutenant governor. It's just not interesting. All right, what else do I have for you? The only thing I keep getting hit with probably from your opponents is how you qualify yourself as a veteran. Now, from the outset, I've always had ultimate respect for anybody puts a uniform on. Sure. I don't care if it's ROTC, National Guard, or if you're, a Navy SEAL like your opponent all the way across the gambit. You guys do something a lot of us didn't do, and you have our respect. But how do you describe your veteran status as it relates to this campaign?
So I did my 6-year contract in the Alabama National Guard. My brother's a retired Marine fighter pilot. My son-in-law was an Army Ranger, and all my buddies' dads growing up, a lot of them down here with Fort Rucker were Vietnam-era pilots. And so, yeah, I served 6 years and I almost deployed. We were getting ready to go to Desert Storm, and the mother of all battles that Saddam Hussein talked so strongly about, we actually rolled up the Republican Guard. We were already doing our gas mask test to go over there. So, I didn't deploy, but it looked like I was about to. I'm glad I didn't have to. I can tell you that. I've got a lot of friends that did. And so it's not something you want to do, but you're willing to do for your country.
What year did you leave the Guard?
So I got out in 92. I think it was 92 because I moved to Wisconsin and went inactive. So I got in, and I think it was 88 I signed up and went through basic training at Fort Jackson.
Why would you move to Wisconsin? What's in Wisconsin?
Man, I was an animal health guy, ag science guy out of college.
Okay.
And they offered me a decent job. And I grew up ag science at Auburn and grew up on a farm. I'm still sitting here on the family farm that my uncles plowed with 2 mules named Pat and Bob. So when I transferred to Wisconsin, I went inactive. But, I was 1133rd Medevac in Montgomery, and then 31st Support Battalion in Enterprise, and proud of that time. And I missed the Guard more than I thought I would when I got out. I thought I would never miss those weekend drills and those 2-week summer annual trainings, but I did.
All right, okay, fair enough. Tell me, make your pitch. In full disclosure, Jared's a longtime friend of mine, and I support my friends. Right. I think you've done a great job as a candidate. We've got some real quality people running, and I'm not blowing sunshine because I'm really down on the Republicans right now. But I think you've run a good race. Tell me something about yourself to close the deal that could change some minds, and don't say the word Trump. Go.
Okay, yeah. So I think I have a record, and I think the record is something I'm proud of. And, It's the highest Liberty score in the delegation, one of the top conservatives in the nation. I've never bowed to the power. And one thing that people don't realize is when you're coming from the House to the U.S. Senate, if you've been in the House, you get preferential treatment on committees. That's big as we talk about the golden age of America, the relationships in the golden age of Alabama. As we want to recruit industry, grow the economy, like Space Command, Lilly, Hadrian, you name it, that's coming to Alabama. Those relationships matter. And so it's important that we have some people that have got 4 or 5 years in and can go to work day one.
Excellent. All right, look, if it gets down to a two-man runoff, can I put you on the spot? We haven't had you in yet. I don't do a whole lot of candidate interviews, but I'd love to spend
Right.
some more time with you here in the studio, and so would the audience. Would love to see you here. Could I get you to commit
Yeah.
maybe to a sit down with whoever is in the runoff with you, and just, I mean, I'm not talking about a debate. I just want to have a conversation with the two personalities in the room on the show. Would you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have some votes. We have a 2-vote majority, so we'll have to find a time. But yeah, for us, and that's the thing too. People forget. I don't miss work in Washington D.C. And when you got a 2-vote majority, you better not miss work. But anyway, I'll plan to do that if the schedule allows, brother.
But you're
Sure will. Be
saying
glad to do it.
when we get it figured out between, well, we'll have to work with the other candidate, but you're willing to sit down and do it. You'll
Yeah.
commit to doing that, so we can just have a couple of hours and get it all sorted out as we head to the runoff.
Yes, sir. If we working between votes, I'll be happy to do it.
All right, where are you going to be for election night? What are y'all doing?
Tonight we're going to be at Ketchum's in Hartford. When I won in, I think it was 2020, we had our little deal down there that night, and then for November we'll try to come further north if the Lord be willing.
I got you. All right. Well, look,
I got to fly back to D.C. I got to fly back to D.C. first thing Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. because we have votes.
yeah, you got votes.
I'm trying to be close
A lot
to
going on.
home. Yeah,
It's
I'm
hard
trying
to
to be close to home. Too
It's hard to
tonight.
do both. I've sort of been behind the scenes with that same schedule, and it is very difficult. Good luck to you, and we'll check in with you after the election, see how things are going, man.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
All right, Barry Moore, candidate on your ballot tomorrow. Back here in just a minute. All right. Usually, I make these candidates take calls from you. This was just an abbreviated thing. He couldn't get in the studio, and we just didn't have a whole lot of time. I had a bunch of questions to get in there, but we will get This race, I would be surprised that it's decided tonight. It'd be pleasantly surprised maybe if it is, but we will definitely get him in for an extended time, get y'all in on the phone with him. Seemed like a pretty pleasant guy, and I just don't personally know him. My wife personally knows him, having been involved in a campaign against him a long time ago when he first ran for Congress, but speaks well of him, and so do people that a lot of his supporters that are friends of mine really think a lot of Barry Moore. So it was good to have him on it here as y'all make your final decisions. Let me tell y'all a funny story, and I'd hate to mention the name of AJ, our fellow colleague, because I might embarrass Eula if I told her story. But she comes running in here. She and I were doing some business right before the show, and Eula comes in. She's staring at me. The show opens playing. She's just looking at me. I'm like, "What do you want, Eula? Show opens playing. You know what I'm doing?"
Right.
I love Eula. She's just, I don't know, how would you describe Eula? Like everybody's favorite aunt around here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves Eula. So she looked up and showed me her tooth, and it was dangling. Her front tooth was dangling, and she was in crisis. I was like, "What happened?" And you were looking at me like, "We got to talk."
Right.
So I kind of she just had to run out of here. I didn't know what was going on, but she had something happened to her tooth. I think she had an accident, bumped her tooth loose, and was just, you know what she needed? You know what she needed?
Yeah.
She needed our dentist.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, "Connect me with Alabama Dental. I need to go. I need to go." Like I got some inside track. Well, I kind of do, because I reached out to Dr. Brown and said, "Hey, one of our colleagues is coming to see y'all. Help her out for sure." They are so good like that. She knows from their impeccable reputation being my dentist and AJ's dentist, and they take care of a lot of people around the building. And if you got a crisis like that, man, that's something you can't plan for. It's one thing to have a toothache, but you can knock one loose and you don't want to lose it. And I can't imagine the pain. Poor Eula. So I reached out to Brian. This is while the first segment of the show is going on, and told her how to reach them, and hopefully they'll get all connected and they can get her in there. Here's the cool thing. They're open until 7 o'clock tonight. So if they've got room on that schedule, this is the exact kind of scenario where this 4 dentist practice set themselves up to be able to take in folks at the last minute and get these kind of things situated. And they might be able to save that for Eula. And I love that about them and her. And I hope everybody gets good. Sometimes I got a little personal story I can tell y'all. Y'all, Alabama Dental, that's who they are. They absolutely are there for the extended hours as late as 7 o'clock. They are there for the Saturday hours when they can do that. And the only reason they can do that is because they got 4 dentists. And the reason they've got 4 dentists, they designed sort of a mega practice. And so amongst those 4 dentists, one of those guys is going to be the best at fixing a tooth that's gotten loose from an accident. And others are going to be better at other things, and they'll be able to get her real expertise with all the technology, the great hours, and what a good group of people. I find myself in life constantly just searching out good people to be around, just competent, good, genuine people that are shooting straight with you. That's Alabama Dental all day long. alabamadental.com, alabamadental.com. All right, we're chasing the 2 breaking stories. We now have my man Gary Palmer on the hotline. His opponent will be on later in the show, so y'all can hear both of those candidates for the 6th district for now until we redraw the lines and have to do it again. But everybody's on the ballot tomorrow anyway. It's the craziest election year. All that coming up. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all stay tuned. Man, Huey Tampon, next up here on the show. Tommy over there, Adam, all those guys, they'll take care of you. We primarily, Huey Tampon came on just to talk about the gun business that they have because this is a legit gun store. They got a huge gun counter, tactical stuff, handguns, hunting equipment, optics, sound suppression, which is so huge, is still huge, even though the tax stamp came off. People are able to now better afford it. You won't find a better selection. Then Tommy will throw in a deal on something completely different, like he did the other day with these utility trailers. I think every home needs one of these little single axle trailers of some type. Even, in fact, I'm looking at them because I've got a big old trailer that's kind of a pain to get out and pull loose and get out. It's a big double axle thing that I use to haul bigger equipment on. Man, a little runaround trailer sometimes just to go run to the hardware store or take something to the dump or these kind of things, move a lawnmower. These are so useful. So get a hitch, get a ball, and get over to Hueytown Pawn and get one. $14.99 is where they start. You know, single axle, little fold down bed, open trailer, well built here in Alabama. These Lauer Moore trailers built, I believe, up in Walker County. So you got the actual manufacturer close by, and they always stand behind everything they build. And they've got deals for you. By the way, Tommy will finance them at Hueytown Pawns. You can put it on your tab at Hueytown Pawn over on Brook Lane Drive, Hueytown Pawn. I talked about the hunting guns. Here's a fellow that I have been hunting with, Gary Palmer, my congressman here in the 6th District. Gary, welcome into the show, man.
Thanks for having me on, Leland.
Yeah, I mean, usually I have you on because you're my congressman and we're talking about Congress stuff, but, you know, we got the ballot tomorrow. We got a campaign. You do have an opponent. It was actually your campaign that reached out. So, in fairness, I said, let's do this. Let's just talk about how it's going. How's it going?
I think it's going good. I mean, I think most people know I've done a good job. They know I keep my head down, and they know that I kind of fit that mold that Leland Whalen looks for in a representative, someone who's really smart and boring.
Now you just kissing my ass. It's true though. I like my congressman. Boring. Unlike that Massey race that's going on up in Kentucky. I won't even get you to comment on that. That's that's just salacious tabloid stuff. I'm glad we're not dealing with those things down here in the 6th
Yeah.
district. What do you make of all the redistricting? Because it's all y'all seats that we're talking about. Y'all got to be on the ballot tomorrow. Then you got to do it again in August. How's that been for you and the team?
Well, you know, someone asked me about it, Leland, and I said, look, you don't ask me about it and how it impacts me. Ask about how it impacts the country, and I think that should be the primary focus for everybody. We need to do what's best for the country, and what's best for the country is adding seats and taking back some of these seats that the Democrats took from us. And you know this, that this whole thing started a long time ago with the Democrats redistricting and driving Republicans out in the Northeast. And then it really got ramped up when Obama left office, and he and Eric Holder started suing states. They
Oh
set
yeah.
up this organization strictly to sue states to force districts based entirely on race, which we now know is unconstitutional. And I think a lot of us knew it was unconstitutional when they were doing it.
Well, it has been, and it just hasn't been successfully argued. The thing is that the irony to me is that's what prompted the Supreme Court case is that the Eric Holder and the ilk, Mark Elias, and those guys, for partisan advantage, use race as a tool, put these states against the wall based on the old reasoning of the Voter Rights Act, and then overreached to a degree that the Supreme Court shut the whole thing down. If they'd have been a little more
Yeah.
cautious, they wouldn't have had that court case, but they forced too much. Now all of it's been undone, and it's going to be a little chaotic for a few weeks. But based on the best estimate, Gary, in terms of y'all keeping a majority, it's barely, I mean, there are barely 10 or 12 seats that are really in play right now. And it's kind of a tie when you measure the states that already are leaning one way or the other. You see what I mean? There's not many swing seats anymore.
Yeah. Well, you also got to look at two other things. One, the seats that are in play, did Trump win those districts or not?
Yep.
And then the second thing is, and I think you and I've talked about this, we've always known on the generic ballot where when they poll people, they don't ask, are you going to vote for Congressman Smith or Jones? They ask, do you prefer Democrat or Republican? And if we're within 5 points, we could be down 5 points in the generic poll. We know we're going to win. Right now, 6 months out, we're down 3 points. And that's with everything that's gone against us. All the negative press, all of the left-wing media, accusing us of this and that. We're only down 3 points. So I think when you add in what's being done through redistricting and the work that we're still going to do, I've been invited to the White House Thursday, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff. Leland, I think we've got a great chance of holding the majority, maybe even adding to it.
How do you feel about the quality? You've been around long enough to kind of judge that X factor for certain candidates. How do you feel about the quality of the candidates you have in those swing districts? Because it really comes down to that. If you got a crappy candidate, it doesn't matter what the generic ballot says.
That's right. It comes down to the quality of the candidate. And in the last cycle, this is the best freshman class that I've ever seen. It goes all the way back to when I was working for the Alabama Policy Institute. There's only one that I think wants to be a celebrity. And I say this all the time. There's two kind of people that run for Congress, those that want the job and those that want the title, that think they'll become a celebrity. The rest of them, they've got their head down, they're working. I'm really impressed. I think those are the kind of people that we're going to be running this fall, and I think that makes the biggest difference of anything you can do out there is the talent that you put on the ballot.
Have you ever been to the Reagan Ranch?
I have.
I don't know if you had a chance to see the news today, but it's they just had to evacuate it. There's a Simi Valley massive wildfire, and it's come close to burning down in the past. And I know they've upgraded the I guess fortifications around it to help against that. But pretty dramatic scene this afternoon. I've yet to be able to go, and I've thought if there's anybody I know that's probably been there, it's you.
Well, the interesting thing is how humble the Reagans were in their lifestyle. When you go, you remember the old appliances from the 70s that you could get in gold or olive.
Yep.
You're talking about their stove and refrigerator, and they had a king-size bed, but it was two twin beds pulled together with the headboards wired with basically baling wire and coat hanger with a king-size mattress across it. I mean, one of the more impressive things I saw at the Reagan Ranch is he had like 6 chainsaws.
Yeah, he was known for clearing the old brush when he would go home and ride his horse. In the movie about him, one of the more touching things was when he asked the Secret Service if he could go for one more ride that he knew Alzheimer's was kicking in. They weren't going to let him do it anymore. And that guy went on the ride with him because that was one of the things the man enjoyed. Anyway, I got squirreled by that because I'm watching these fires on TV while you and I are talking this afternoon. All right, if there's one challenging thing about your candidacy that has come up, and you and I have talked about this when you made the decision to go beyond your commitment to term limit yourself, we had this conversation privately and then on air. So I think I know what you're going to say, but I need the audience to hear. You're running for a 7th term in excess of what you initially said you were going to do. Why are you hanging in there?
Yeah, I said I'd only do 5, and I shouldn't have said you know where I come from in terms of praying about it, and I didn't pray about it. I reacted in a forum when other members were asked how long they'd stay in. And I own it. I said it, so I own it. But I will admit that to the voters. But I think I've done a good job, and the White House has made it clear to me they want me to come back. They see me as one of the top, if not the top, policy minds in Congress. And that's the main reason I'm going back is to finish the job.
When will it ever be finished? It looks like there's not much happening.
Well, I think that there's certain things that I think we can do that I think we're close to being able to get done. And that's part of the reason why I've been having so many visits with the White House, with the policy team, and I'll sit down with President Trump to go over some of this stuff. The SAVE Act is certainly one of them. Some additional health care reform, and there's some things that I think we can do that really make a difference for the country going forward. And the Trump team is fantastic. It's the best cabinet I've ever worked with. But one of the biggest things is just one of those boring things, Leland, that you and I've talked about, is our reliance on China for refined critical minerals and rare earth elements and pharmaceutical ingredients, and what a major threat this is to our national security and our economic security, because there's not a single major refinery for rare earth elements in the entire Western Hemisphere. Just had a classified briefing with Friday with the guy who's heading this up for the White House. He's on the National Security Council. And I think even Democrats have come to realize that this is a huge threat to us. So those are some of the things that I feel like, and on this critical minerals rare earth element thing, I've been talking about that for 6 years. And the Trump campaign reached out to me in 24 to ask for me to advise them on energy policy, and I brought that up, and that's what got it on the president's radar.
So, in that vein, though, and I know you and I have talked at length about the AI war and our ability to be able to dominate that or control that or to produce the elements for that, which is part of this rare earth thing. What about all these data centers that are popping up around the country? People feel like they're being put upon and run over. They're sucking up resources using eminent domain. Does Congress have a role in helping coordinate that or planning that, or is that a state matter?
Well, it's both. What we're trying to do in our energy policy is force the data centers to pay for their own power. And I'm a huge proponent of small modular nuclear reactors for the future power generation. And what I've talked with Secretary Wright, Chris Wright, Secretary of Energy, is that we need to go to these places that were once coal-fired power plants and put these small modular reactors there and put data centers in close proximity. That takes care of the not in my backyard issue. These are already brownfield sites. We can do the same thing for building the critical infrastructure for processing and refining critical minerals and rare earth elements. And the best thing about it is you don't have to build new transmission lines because the existing transmission lines are still usable. So that's one of the huge things that I think we need to take advantage of, is the fact that we've got these existing transmission lines and we got a place to put these things without having to put them in somebody's pasture or backyard.
But you still have these horror stories coming from just whole different regions of the country. One more prominently just right over the border in Georgia, where the utility is just using eminent domain and their leverage with that section of the law to just take whatever land they want, regardless of how the local governments or the states are intervening. And it just seems like we're all being about to be put upon, and it's impossible to stop the locations that are already happening before a plan like yours could be put into place.
Well, I'm getting a lot of support for my plan, and even among Democrats. We had a breakfast meeting with some of these energy folks, and there were a number of Democrats in the meeting, and I've got Democrats that literally come up to me and say, we agree with you. But everybody understands that we cannot lose the race for dominance in artificial intelligence and quantum computing, because whoever wins that, and it's an arms race, Leland, whoever wins it won't be a superpower, they'll be the superpower. They will control the battlefield. And so we've got to find that right balance, and I think the right balance is to not impose upon people. Don't screw up their neighborhoods, devalue their homes or their farms. We've got other places that we can do this, and I think in some cases, particularly with the process and refining facilities, we can actually increase the baseload power available to the surrounding area, which I think will help bring down utility cost.
Well, it's like landfills and prisons. We have to make the case to vote. We need both, but nobody wants one. And we're in that dilemma
Yeah.
now, right now, all over you can make the argument of how important it is to have this big AI war that's obviously here. It's not even coming; it's here. But yet, you still got to sort that out on the ground, and we'll wait and see how that policy goes through. Where are you going to be tomorrow night if we are doing election coverage and want to talk to you?
I'll be in Washington. I've got to go back
Yeah.
in the morning. I've got several meetings that I couldn't bail out on. So, and I don't like to bail out on people who, take the trouble to come to D.C. I think that's wrong, and really nothing I can do tomorrow anyway.
Yeah, once the election starts, it's going. And yeah, we just talked to your colleague Barry Moore as well. He said he was doing the same thing. Y'all got votes this week. What's coming up this week that we need to look for?
Well, from a local perspective, we're going to pass Lulu's law, which is something that Katie Britt and I introduced. Lulu Gribben, as you know, lost an arm and part of an arm and a leg to a shark attack because that same shark had attacked somebody a mile and a half, 2 miles up the beach from where Lulu was. There was no warning. And this doesn't cost anything to do, but it just adds to an Amber type alert that everybody's phone will light up to basically say, get your kids out of the water. And we're hoping Lulu's going to be able to be there, but that vote's planned for Wednesday. We're working as you know, the parliamentarian in the Senate said that we couldn't fund the Border Patrol and ICE through the way it's set up in the reconciliation package. So we were supposed to actually be in D.C. today and come home Thursday, but we pushed everything back. So I may be up there through the weekend trying to get Border Patrol and ICE funded.
How in the world does the Republican establishment leave this person, this McDonough? What's her name? Elizabeth McDonough. How is she still the parliamentarian? This woman should not be in that job.
She should have been replaced the first day that John Thune became majority leader. She was appointed by Harry Reid, who's a hardcore lefty, dingy Harry, as President Trump called him.
Mm-hmm.
She should never have been left in place. She has a long track record of inconsistencies in her rulings. She is clearly partisan. And if you figure out why they haven't replaced her, let me know, because I'd like to be able to explain why she's still there.
The system protects itself up there. Gary, I appreciate your time this afternoon, and we will perhaps chat with you after the primary.
I appreciate it.
All right. Gary Palmer, 6th District Congressman. He's got to run like 18 times for his own seat, assuming he's not taken out by Case Dixon, who's going to be joining us at 5:30. We got Jay Mitchell on the way into today as well. A lot of interviews, last-minute candidate roundup, and I will be, people keep asking, I'll be going through the ballot. I'll pull my ballot and walk through it as it relates to your ballot, which could be a little different. We'll do that in the 5 o'clock hour. So busy show this afternoon. And we're chasing some developing stories with a shooting at an Islamic center, a wildfire, and one more note, then we'll go to the break. Mark Furman, y'all know that name? OJ case. He was the lead cop on the OJ case. Just passed away at 74. Man, he became an instant celebrity with a lot of people during those times. Okay, all right, Mandu. Let's talk about getting your booty right and tight. If you are on those weight loss shots, and they're working miracles for some people, people are seeing insulin levels get better, blood pressure get better. It helps to lose weight, but part of that equation, you are not doing it right unless you build muscle while you're doing it. Because if you ever come off, your old habits are going to come back. Your body's not healthy. You got to maintain bone density and muscle strength. The problem is the shots are kind of a shortcut on the diet part of it, and nobody wants to go to the gym if you can't get your food discipline in. Going to the gym's going to be tough. Here's Mandu. Mandu it's not a shortcut, but it's a lot more efficient than old gym technology. This is electronic muscle stimulation. Could be the right 1-2 punch you need to stay healthy where you're getting yourself in shape with all this technology. Y'all go and visit them in Homewood. Try it out. See what you think. It's weird. I'm telling you, it's weird, but it's so effective. 15-minute workout every couple of days is all you can do. Works your whole body. Check into it at Mandu, MANDUU.com in Homewood downtown, or over in T-Town on University, and up in Huntsville, mandu.com. I know we're running a little bit behind, but let's dip real quick, AJ, over to San Diego. There's an update on this mosque area shooting. Let's take a listen.
Impressive response that I have ever seen in policing. We have every single police officer available throughout our county that dropped what they're doing and did exactly what they're trained to do: run towards gunfire. I could not be more proud, and I cannot express the gratitude, the willingness to step into harm's way in a moment like this. And I tell you what got me. Watching the kids come running out. Just thankful to be alive. I want to bring up Mark Remley from the FBI.
Let me give you a quick summary of what has happened if you're just tuning in today. There was some sort of active shooting. It's been contained. The shooter's been neutralized. 3 dead, probably including the shooter, near a mosque in San Diego. That's one of the breaking stories today. We'll get you updates on that. Jay Mitchell, candidate for AG, up next. Y'all hang on.